I want to start with streaming. You are developing a new streaming service, yet you've said you're not getting out of linear. How do you see the balance of power, though, shifting between linear and streaming at Disney?
Well, on the sports side, what we're doing is staying in the linear business, and the ESPN linear channels will still be available by traditional means, meaning multi-channel distributors. We're also adding to that a significantly enhanced, meaning extra sporting events service as a subscription model that will be accessed through the same app that you can access the channels and other ESPN scores and highlights. They'll have 10,000 extra or additional live sporting events in the first year and be available this spring. On the Disney front, we're launching a Disney streaming service in probably the latter part of 2019. That will house the output of the studio in what is called the pay window. At one point it was the HBO window. For us, it's been a window that Netflix has licensed from us. That ends in 18, and our movies slate starting in 19 will move over to this service, and then we'll augment it with television shows, library, original TV shows, and then original movies made just for the service, as well as shorts and a variety of other Disney features.
On the Vanity Fair new establishment list, they describe a rare case of mortality when it comes to ESPN and you, given the struggles that we have seen at ESPN and earlier this year especially. Why not just offer ESPN content direct to consumers?
Because right now the business model that most people access the primary ESPN content, which is live sports, 16,000 sporting events a year, is a good business model for us and a relatively good proposition for the consumer. It's working. It's not growing as fast as it once did. That's been largely what people have been focused on. But the epitaph for ESPN, it would be far too premature to write it. It's interesting you use the word mortality, otherwise I wouldn't use the word epitaph.
Well, actually, Vanity Fair used it.
Use the word mortality. I actually haven't read that yet. But ESPN still covers, as I said, like 16,000 different sporting events a year, 65,000 hours of programming. In a few months in 2016, I noted that about 75% of Americans watched some form of ESPN at one point or another in a month. I mean, it's still an unbelievably popular service and one that is still thriving from a profitability perspective. But the world of TV has been disrupted, and we feel we need to adjust accordingly, and that's what we're doing by launching a streaming service, and that's what we're doing that's why we invested in BAMTech, and that's why we're making available all these extra sports on a streaming direct-to-consumer basis.
Speaking of BAMTech, you mentioned on stage that you were looking into buying Twitter. You bought BAMTech instead. Why'd you decide against Twitter?
Well, what I said on stage, I was asked whether we had looked at Twitter, and what I said was we were looking for opportunities to distribute in more modern ways, in particular direct to the consumer, and we were impressed with Twitter's distribution. Twitter was not the only company that we looked at. I said that on stage, but we did look at it, and we ultimately decided that there were alternatives to that, and since we weren't really interested in owning a social media platform, but we were interested in distribution, we had been investing in BAMTech as a minority owner and decided that if there was a path to buying majority or control, then that would be the better way to go for what we wanted to accomplish.
Bloomberg had reported that perhaps Disney couldn't get over the more unsavory parts of Twitter. Is there any truth to that?
I don't really want to be specific about what we saw, except to say that our interest was new distribution, or what I'll call modern distribution, direct to the consumer, and ultimately we felt there were other ways that we could accomplish that as a company.
NFL ratings have been mixed so far this season, despite higher profile games happening earlier on. Do you think ratings will go up?
Well, I think it's early for the NFL. It's still the beginning of the season as playoff races really start to emerge. And as new stars emerge, or old stars are reminded of old stars' presence on the field. I've been around long enough to see that there are cycles in the sport. I think all content is facing more competition for consumers' time. Even the most popular content, whether it's the NFL or any number of other, or network TV or some of the cable channels. I just think we're just living in a new world reality, and we have to accept that. Doesn't mean that it's still among the most popular things out there or the most successful from a business perspective, but it's the reality of our time.
I'm so sorry to hear that 3 Disney employees were shot in the Las Vegas shooting. I know that you think about security a lot when it comes to your parks. Are you reevaluating anything, and how?
We're constantly evaluating and reevaluating our security procedures globally for the obvious reason, our footprint. We believe that we've done a tremendous amount and that our properties are safe, but when something like this happens, not only are you reminded of the world's fragility, but it causes you to take stock and look again, redouble efforts, see whether there's more we can possibly do. That's part of an ongoing process, but I must say when something like this happens, it does cause us to look even further. It's just sort of it's almost a natural reaction to a terrible tragedy. Terrible.
And you've said this is a call to have a political dialogue on gun control. How so?
I don't think it's a political issue. I don't think it should be a political issue. I think we've got a national crisis on our hands. When you look at the instance of this, whether it was Sandy Hook or Columbine or Aurora or Virginia Tech or Orlando, the nightclub in Orlando, or Las Vegas, this could happen anywhere in our country. It could happen to any of us. It touched our company very closely on Sunday night, but it could touch everybody. And I just think we have to figure out how we have some productive dialogue about it. I don't know whether a change of law would have prevented what happened Sunday night. That to me isn't even to be debated. What needs to happen is we need to exhort our government officials to have a productive dialogue about this. It seems that it always goes in a very, very, political direction. I should say, it's unfortunately it's an incendiary topic. It's something that gets people really heated because they feel that there's a challenge to our rights as American citizens, the Second Amendment. I think we need to move it away from that. We just have to analyze what is going on in our world, in our country, and what can we do to make citizens safer and prevent this from happening. So I just think we should be outraged by the lack of a productive dialogue about this, particularly in the wake of incidents like this.
Vanity Fair also mentioned rumors continue to abound about you possibly running for president in 2020. Have you ruled anything out?
Well, here's what I've ruled in. I've ruled in the fact that I have a full-time job right now, and I love this job, and I'm committed to it, and I'm spending all of my time on that and on my family. Fortunate to have 4 kids and 5 great wonderful grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and a wife that I love dearly, and that's my life. And I will eventually have to figure out what I'm going to do after Disney. Hopefully we'll have a lot of different opportunities, and I haven't really even begun to explore what those are.
You've said on stage you will be leaving in 2019, as we know. That gets everyone talking. What's the succession plan? What progress has been made on a successor? Will it be someone inside or outside? Can you share anything?
It'll be someone great. I wish people would calm down about this. I know that there's interest, but that's the good news is because they're interested in Disney, not just our size, but what we represent and who we are and how we touch so many people. Our board's engaged in a great process. We talk about it every meeting. We had a meeting last Thursday and Friday. It was on the agenda. They'll look at inside candidates. They may consider outside candidates as well. They have time. I'm confident they'll make a decision. And they'll choose the right person at the right time.
All right. So let's look ahead.
As they did with me, actually.
To the future.
I must say.
The box office this summer, not so great. Will it get better, and what is there for studios to learn from that?
I think quality wins. And I think what we saw this summer was not as much quality as the audience would have liked, and it was reflected in the box office. I just think it was a function of that. Now that said, there's a lot of things out there for people to do. There's more competition for people's time and money, particularly when it comes to leisure activity. It means that the bar is raised in terms of delivering quality or delivering experiences that people really want and enjoy. And of course, there's word of mouth. You can't hide from anything. I mean, if something is mediocre, people not only find out about it right away, but they frequently know about it right away before it even comes out. So I think if there's something to be learned, it's concentrating even more on quality. I think there is probably more challenge out there for smaller films today than ever before. Again, because of competition for people's time. The big films, particularly the big good films, the business we're in, I think basically they'll thrive and continue to for a long time as long as they're good.
So Star Wars, Thor, will that turn things around?
Well, I think Star Wars and Thor will be great for us and good for the business. I'm looking forward to bringing both films out, November
right.
and December. And Coco from Pixar, a
All
winner.
right.